And just like that, the journey continues. Welcome to another episode of Dee-Boor by Andrew James Stewart. Today, we're going to speak about a topic that is very close to my heart, a topic that I've been journeying on for close on, say, 12 to 15 years of just learning and trying to understand because it's essentially directly linked to livelihood. And I personally believe it's something that's available to everyone. However, it seems as if it is absolutely and really extremely difficult to get to. As we kick off, the topic for today that we're going to delve into is wealth and try to understand what this is, what it does, and how to get it essentially. In this learning that I've been on, I mentioned it previously about how when I started studying, I wanted to understand why some people are rich and some people are poor, and I got into this learning of investing. I later understood that not only are some people rich and some people poor, there's a even smaller group of people that are wealthy. And this thing really intrigued me because wealth is not necessarily determined by what you have or what people can see. And that really got me intrigued because, like, wealth is essentially something that's not a myth, but something that is like there. You cannot see it outright, but once you engage it, you begin to understand it. So when we look at this thing called rich, right? Rich is typically something that is having a substantial amount of money or assets, and it's often linked to having liquid cash, meaning it's often linked to someone that is a high income earner, someone that earns a lot of money and then is able to live a comfortable life and have this plethora of luxuries and splurge as people like. So, riches can easily be mistaken for wealth. But wealth, on the other hand, it implies a long-term financial security of significant accumulation of assets, right? And wealth includes not just liquid cash, but it includes investments and real estate and sort of tangibles, but things that are not easily converted to cash. It's things that you need to go and sell and bargain with, which is usually valuable possessions. And wealth implies to maintain a comfortable lifestyle over an extended period of time, right? And it is not necessarily determined by an increase or a decrease in your income. So just catch a load of that. Imagine your lifestyle is maintained regardless of whether your income decreases or increases. And that's really what intrigued me about this thing. And when we look at this thing called wealth, we can easily sort of identify it to old money. We kind of understand when we think about or when we talk about old money, it leads us to think generationally, and that's exactly what wealth is. Because wealth is locked up in assets, really. Wealth is locked up in certain things that are of extreme value, right? But also something that is not freely available to everyone. When we look at art pieces, for example, something that I came across last year, that art pieces are extremely valuable, and there's only a certain group of people that tap into it, that is able to tap into it. There's even a fund created around art pieces because there's an opportunity for people to access a level of wealth. So coming back, we think, hmm, this thing is so far out of reach. This thing is so far outside of who I am that I can only maybe access it if I get lucky, or if someone drops a whole lot of cash in my lap, and then I can potentially be wealthy by doing little things. But that is not essentially how it works, because I don't believe that wealth is far out of reach. Riches maybe, but wealth on the other hand, I don't believe so. Because everyone that earns an income, right, they have the ability to generate a level of wealth. Wealth, I don't believe it's the same measure for everyone else. And I'd like to sort of give my very unique, or maybe not so unique, definition of wealth and riches, right? So to me, rich means you have the ability to buy anything that you want right now. And that does not mean that you are only going to be buying it cash. It can mean you're going to buy it on credit, and you have the ability to sort of pay all your bills and tap into a lot of luxuries, right? Wealth, on the other hand, is not based by a value of money necessarily, but it is based on time. So if you were to stop earning your current income that you have been earning for past few years or past few months, if you stop earning that income right now, right? Wealth says you are a period of time wealthy to the measure that you can live without decreasing your lifestyle. And that is so interesting to me because there was a time in my life where I was retrenched from work. And obviously, we all understand that when you're retrenched, it's a bit of a shaking because your income stops and all these things. But in my process of being employed, I've been saving and all those things. And when I look at where I was at the time, and if I did not want to decrease my lifestyle, if I did the calculation, I would have probably been 11 months wealthy at the time because I stopped earning my income, but I had a an a fund that I've been saving and investing in that was to the measure of 11 months of my income, meaning I was 11 months wealthy. So that doesn't seem very great, right? But that's exactly what I'm been thinking about and trying to get at, that there's no real measure to there's no real rule to this. So I might have been 11 months wealthy, but I could have adjusted my lifestyle and then extended the amount of months or the amount of time that my funds at the time would have would have lasted. So when we think about this thing called wealth, right? It is openly available to everyone, I believe. And sometimes we think that it's so far out of reach, right? But I don't believe that wealth is necessarily something that you do in order, or it's nothing that you do specifically that gets you to a level of wealth, but it's more of a state of your mind. A state of your mind in the sense that you have to create certain disciplines in your day to day, even in your month to month, that causes you to build this level of wealth. So let's use an example. If, for example, I want to have a certain amount of cash available to myself in, let's say, December next year, so which means I have an entire year next year, say 11 months, because I want the money in December, and I have this year October, November, and December. So I pretty much have 13 months available to me, right, to build a certain level of wealth. So if I want to have 100,000 Rand by the end of next year, December, I need to divide that amount by the number of months, right, that I want to have this cash by. And if I am able to, I would save that amount of money, right? But not only save it, put it into a fund or put it into an investment that has the ability to build a level of interest, right? Because when we speak about wealth, we speak about putting your money to work and not having your money just lay in a space that is not being working. Because money, on the other hand, is it's a very interesting thing in the sense that money believes in what you make it believe in. Money is not going to do what it is not what it is not told to do. So if you don't tell it to make more money, it will not make more money. And I think that's a lot of the frustration when it comes to money, that we don't have the ability to put money to work. And when I look at where I come from as a person, money was a struggle, right? As a young person, I did not have a lot of access to money, and I did not understand how to mm, avail myself to get access. I just thought I must go to school, I must go study, and I must go work, and then I'll get money. But now, if you look at life, there's so many different things that's available to you that you can do and use in order to get to this level of wealth. So, in saying that, I think that when we try to look at wealth, we must think that I'm not here just because I need to live my life, but I'm here to make someone else's life simpler and better. So, in my lifetime, I want to set up a system that can cause my children's children, and even hopefully further down the line than them, to have access to wealth and to have access to a lifestyle that they can live, that then can lead to the benefit of others around them. So when I look at this, there's a lot of work maybe for me to do, but there's definitely things available for you. And I believe that everyone currently wants to get to the space of wealth, want to get to the space of, I want leverage. I want to be in a space where I can have some sort of freedom. And literally, when we think about this, right, we think about, we have, or as a country, as a nation, we've been so taken back because there's been a lot of things that has been held away from us, things that have been taken away from us. And John O'Brien says this very powerful thing, that capital comes from the word capitas, and capitas means knowledge in the head. When you have the idea or the understanding that you want to build a level of wealth, you have taken the first step to get into that point. You have then taken the first step to being wealthy. And wealth is really a state of mind or a space that you get yourself into, because it's very easy to be ill disciplined, right? We understand that if you get an income of, say, 1,000 Rand, as a silly example, if you're going to spend that entire 1,000 Rand You're not going to have everything, you're not going to have anything left over to build your level of wealth, and you need to wait for the next time that you earn an income. And that is really the understanding that we need to get to, that if we have a goal, we can move towards this thing. And as a country, we can get to a point where we have the ability to really rally people along to get to the space of building the sense of freedom, because we understand that we have come out of political freedom, or we have come into political freedom, but we have never come into financial freedom as a country. There might have been certain individuals, but not as a country. Because if we look at someone that is in financial freedom, they would have had to work extremely hard to get to that point. But at the same time, that there's so many that have the inability to get to that point, that is struggling to get to a point where they can even have a 50 rand available every day for them to live. So I think that this is maybe a major call for major people. And it's really to have the empathy in your mind and in your heart to take a stance and build a level of wealth, but not for yourself, because wealth is generational. Wealth you don't see right now. Wealth you experience over a period of time when you have made the decision and taken the stance. So I think there was a bit of much going on in this topic, but I think it was very important to just share and just say what's on my mind in terms of wealth and what I believe and what my desire is one day. Because now I have a son, and he will not experience an inkling of the life I had to experience. The life he will experience is the life that God has intended for him, and I have a role to play in that. So if he experiences only a life of opulence, then that's great, but he will not be held back by anything. And it doesn't mean that if he lives a life of opulence only, that he's going to be spoiled, because I don't believe I was necessarily spoiled. I had to work hard. So he will have the same training, but live the best possible life that he can, because I've made the decision. And that is essentially the start of me creating spaces and places for people around me to live their very best life. So, yes, thank you for listening to this session, to this podcast. And I'm Andrew James Stewart. This is Dee-Boor. I'm living my dream, and I hope you decide to live your dream too. We will see you on the next episode in 1 week's time.